Hey there, Icarus here. It's safe to say that 2023 has been ever so slightly stacked in the video game department, to such a degree that some people have been having a rough one figuring out what they actually have time to either play or even afford. I'm in both camps, to be honest. Short on cash, short on time. Why, you might wonder? Well, that's because 2023 was stacked in another aspect for yours truly, that being the arrival of not one, but two new members of the Icarus clan that I will henceforth referred to as Plutonia and Evolution. Or should it be the final Doom twins? That way I avoid questions about which one I like better. Anyways, with time and money at a premium this year, it's hard to choose what to prioritize. That's why I've chosen to draw up this list of 5 top-shelf boom shoots. Or boomer shooters, to be exact. Throwback style, retro style, whatever you want to call them. Shooters that I've found most enjoyable this year. There is a notable condition to this list, however, first and foremost being that it needs to be a full, finished release. There are certainly a fair few early access titles out there that I would easily recommend, but in the interest of keeping this concise, I might save those for a separate video. In any case, let's get started. Fuck. In any case, let's get started, shall we? You know how I know not nearly enough of you have played a medieval, let alone the expansion, a medieval The Black Labyrinth? It's the fact that I have beat Black Labyrinth, and as a result, I'm in the top 2.4% of players for having done so. This is inexcusable. I mean, seriously, what gives? What is preventing you from playing a medieval? What is holding you back from experiencing this wonderful high fantasy, basically homage to Hexen, to Heretic, chock full of magical weapons and fantastical realms with an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous visual style that is genuinely satisfying to play from front to back? That's just the base game. The Black Labyrinth is basically these guys on the top of their game, bringing you even more top-tier levels to play through. Not just that, but a new starting melee weapon, which is quite possibly some of the most satisfying punching I've done in an FPS in the past 5 fucking years, and, of course, a new super weapon in the form of the Void Splitter. Now, despite this officially being a prequel to the events of the main campaign, I would honestly say play the main campaign before diving into the Black Labyrinth, because, in my opinion, this honestly raises the bar when it comes to a medieval as a whole. No kidding, there are several moments throughout the course of this expansion that elicited a genuine out-loud holy shit. But in general, it's just nice to have even more a medieval to play. You forget just how fun it can be to light up one enemy in particular with the Voltride and overkill them so much that the electricity spills out and kills a whole bunch of enemies around them. There's the Star of Torment, a weapon that leaves me with almost a permanent grin on my face because you can just pin them to the goddamn wall. And then there's the Celestial Claw. It shoots planets. Why aren't you playing this? But yeah, the Black Labyrinth honestly amps everything up. New selection of levels, new selection of enemies, some of which actually prove to be quite challenging during the course of your adventures, and a finale which I'm not going to spoil here, but if it doesn't elicit a genuine fuck yeah, then honestly, you're dead inside. Play a medieval, play the Black Labyrinth, make me feel less smug for having that shiny achievement. Slavcore, Soviet-like, brown, punk, however you wish to describe HROT, the simple truth is that you have to play it to appreciate its particular brand of absurdity. Ever been in a fight with a sentient pommel horse? Ever been jump-scared by a mini digger? Ever felt bad for fighting a weaponized gorilla whose only crime was just vibing? With HROT, not only will all of this come to pass, but so much more. Not to mention a pretty effective recipe for beef stroganoff. Don't assume, however, that weirdness and absurdity are all that HROT has going for it, however, because beneath all that lies the beating heart of a pretty fun, old-school shooter experience. The weapon roster here is reliably solid. Usual rogues gallery, pistol, shotguns, machine guns, the occasional crossbow, and a grenade launcher. And if you're particularly adept at seeking out your secrets, you might even get your hands on a lightning gun, which I believe can actually be charged at electrical closets, but be warned it can also come at the cost of a chunk of your health. I'd describe the level design at play here in HROT as impressively understated. It revolves around your traditional key hunts, but the way the levels are structured means that it always finds a neat way to loop you back around to just the right spot you need to be in to progress. Enemy-wise, as I've already stated, can already include some unique entries, but as for the rank and file, they'll provide a reasonable enough degree of challenge to keep you engaged during your average level. But honestly, don't let the brown put you off. It's a surreal and fascinating trip through 80s era Czechoslovakia, replete with all of the Eastern Bloc paraphernalia you could ever hope for, and honestly, a surprising degree of interactivity. Seriously, there's at least one point in every level where you'll find something to just fiddle around with. Heck, this one level just has a fully functional keyboard. Can I play anything worth a damn? No, but there it is nonetheless. HROT is alternately funny and spooky, grim yet delightful. It only gets stranger the deeper you delve, and without trying to give it away too much, it has an ending that truly needs to be experienced to be believed. HROT is honestly a vibe. That, and helpfully, a heck of a lot of fun. Herald of Havoc knows exactly what kind of game it wants to be, and in that regard it dedicates as much effort as it can muster to making the act of mowing down an army of Magitech adversaries feel as good as possible. Its simple, clean visuals disguise an eminently satisfying lineup of weaponry which, maybe excluding the pew-pew of the starting laser pistol, feels good to use. Honestly, near enough every weapon here delivers a dopamine hit just through the sheer act of firing. It sounds obvious, but the impact of your projectiles actually feel impactful. The way the enemies take their hits, the way they fall when defeated, it's all precision engineered to feel good. Each level is a pistol/sword start, but that's probably for the best, considering how much of a punch most of this roster packs. Out of the lineup, I have to shine the spotlight on weapons like the chain gun, which is absolutely everything I would ever want a chain gun to be, the chain shotgun, which is everything I would ever want a chain gun to be if it were made of shotguns, and the shock rifle. Honestly, you might be thinking, what's the big deal with the primary fire? After all, that chain strike is most useful against crowds of weaker enemies, but oh boy, wait till you get a load of that secondary. To quote my own quote that ended up on the Herald of Havoc Steam page, I'm gonna have to change my pants multiple times here, it's ridiculous. It's not particularly complex, heck, it's not particularly long either. However, it crams a lot of variety into its 3 relatively brisk episodes, delivering Quake by way of serious Sam thrills in an impressively solid package. I can safely say that for the short time I spent blasting my way through Herald of Havoc's levels, I was never, ever bored. A prime showcase of what you can do when you're trading on the sensation of just raw satisfaction. Certainly the most stylistically quirky out of the bunch here, Calcium Contract sees you dispatched to an island brimming with hostiles in order to defeat the tyrannical Bird Serpent. Its crime? It refuses to die. As a skeletal agent of the Calcium Order, you have been tasked with closing out this particular contract where other agents have failed. Man, this one is just delightful. It feels familiar in some ways, yet utterly strange in others, carving out a personality that is distinctly all its own. Enemies span a wide and interesting roster, different combinations of which presenting some very interesting encounters and situations. For example, there's an enemy that causes all nearby enemies to periodically teleport about, while another will speed up nearby enemies while slowing you down if you take a hit from it. Also, every now and again, there's this prize chicken, often spawning in unexpected locations and leading to an utterly madcap chase situation whereupon if you want whatever treasure it's holding, you're gonna have to chase it down before it disappears. Doubly tricky when you're dealing with an existing combat situation. In that regard, when it comes to the weaponry, again, they feel somewhat familiar, yet still charmingly strange. I am a particular fan of a weapon that I refer to as the xylobone, because the sound of it firing makes me happy. Not to mention the small spirit skulls that assist you in firing and reloading. Each level here is a pistol start, or more specifically a scythe start, but never really felt like it stung. The weapon roster is tight enough that you never really feel put out by it, and honestly it gives each level a bit more flexibility to do interesting things with its encounters versus whatever loadout it presents you with. Like Herald of Havoc, it's not particularly long, but personally, I feel like it's got the perfect length for what it presents. Seriously strange, seriously charming, and occasionally, oddly terrifying. Largely because of the berserker chickens. Those things, God. Hey, remember Ion Fury? You know, the game that reminded everyone how great a build engine game can be 20-something years down the line? Well, guess what? It only took them 5 flippin' years to get around to releasing the Aftershock expansion, and mercifully, it seems to kick roughly as much, if not a third degree more ass, than the original. So, what'd you get? Well, a pretty robust 15-level campaign for one, an extended roster of enemies, an extended arsenal with which to obliterate them with, a clutch of new power-ups, notably including the likes of the Golden Gun power-up, which I love. It supercharges whatever you have, sometimes to a comically OP degree, and then there's the hover bike, which is pretty damn neat. In fact, it has a whole level dedicated to just slamming it around whilst also attempting to beat a course timer. It kind of sticks out. There's no real true reason for it, but hey, it's fun. Fuck it. All in all, despite, being a bit overdue, it's honestly a great expansion, building on that already solid foundation and refining everything that made the original campaign sing. The level design here is absolutely on point, meticulous in their construction and true to their roots in the likes of the urban design of Duke 3D, uber detailed, stuffed with interactable elements, and comprehensively riddled with secrets. Sometimes the end screen of a level, in fact, can feel like a taunt, what with how much you can potentially miss. Can't hurt that the combat is pretty damn solid too. The already impactful weaponry is now complemented with the likes of explosive ammo for the disperser, gas grenades, and, of course, there's the home wrecker. This actually starts attached to the hover bike, but later you get the opportunity to drag it around with you on foot. Primary fire will send out a single plasma projectile, which, if you're not on target, will actually home in on a locked-on enemy, and secondary, it does a whole big bunch of them. Basically, if you got a crowd of enemies and you got a home wrecker, they're screwed. Basically, if you enjoyed Ion Fury, you're really gonna like Aftershock, and even better, Aftershock includes an additional arrange mode that takes all of the original campaign, flips it, and remixes the enemy composition for a fresh challenge. So, if you're eager to give it another crack and just have a little bit of extra spice, arrange mode is there for you to try. Here's hoping that when it comes to Phantom Fury further on down the line, that too manages to keep the good times and the bowling bombs rolling. You know what? It's nice when a game not only lives up to its name, but thoroughly obliterates any expectations you had of it. That is the degree of drooling awestruck wonder that I hold for what Turbo Overkill achieves. So, what's it about? Well, you see, Johnny Turbo here has a contract to take down a rogue AI, one that has taken to spitting out cyber-biological horrors all over the ironically named world of Paradise. He has a deployable chainsaw for a leg, smokes the occasional cigar, and has an AI sidekick voiced by none other than John St. John. That's right, Dick Kickham himself. It is without hyperbole that I say Turbo Overkill features some of the most silky smooth movement I have ever had the pleasure of experiencing in a first-person shooter, let alone a boom shoot. You'll be chainsaw sliding, double jumping, and wall running like it was as natural as breathing by roughly halfway through the first of its 3 really goddamn chunky episodes. And oh man, everything during the course of this just escalates to a wonderfully absurd degree. Same goes for the weaponry. Dual pistols as your defaults give way to shotguns, shotguns give way to SMGs and chain guns give way to insta-gib teleport rifles. Or should that be insta-gib? Ah, whatever, you also get a goddamn orbital ion cannon targeter. All of these feature several tiers of upgrades, purchasable throughout the course of the game, that beef them into, quite frankly, even more ridiculous versions of themselves. And what can I say? I love a game that finds ways to keep even its starting pistol relevant. I feel like I'd need an entire separate video in order for me to adequately sing the praises of this game. Almost every moment of playing this is being in the fun zone, and I use that term very deliberately because personally I feel like Turbo Overkill excels at the same type of combat loop that Doom Eternal attempted but kind of turned me off somewhat with how prescriptive your actions have to be. Conversely, Turbo Overkill feels like it's all about the freedom. Sure, there's a few more ideal ways of taking down certain enemies, but you don't really have to. It's not going to punish you for trying something a little different. Sometimes for me, it's just the sheer joy of discovery mid-combat, like that one time I discovered the plasma rifle's alt-fire can pluck the mace from a rammer out mid-air and just fling it straight back and good shit. And on top of all this, there's the augment slots, which you can buy from the shop or seek out more specialized ones from Tetra Tech keys scattered throughout levels. And there's just a lot of fun stuff to experiment with when it comes to your particular build. I, personally, am a fan of the one that grants you double chainsaw leg, because, I mean, it's double chainsaw leg. I don't have to explain any further. Oh yeah, and then there's the occasional scattered vehicle sections. The hover car is an absolute devastator, and if you're seeking additional cool while taking down enemies while driving it, you can, in fact, jump out mid-flight and just surf the hood. Bike's pretty neat too. It's got chainsaws attached to the front of it because of course it does, but seriously, you don't need to think about it too hard. There's a tower with a giant laser eyeball trying to kill you. You just keep driving, man. Just keep fucking driving. But yeah, beyond happy with my personal experience of Turbo Overkill. I just love careening around these levels. It's got verticality out the wazoo, and its campaign, man, the campaign takes you on an odyssey from the gutter to the stars, and it is just one of the purest expressions of FPS excess that I could have ever hoped to lay my senses on. Seriously though, all I've touched on here feels like just a mere fraction of what you'll get to experience. There's secret levels, an endless arena mode, a friggin' arcade mode on top of that, obligatory appearances by Gianni, and I would be very remiss if I didn't mention the music during the course of this that makes you feel absolutely godlike. Holy shit, Turbo Overkill is just fucking awesome. But there you have it, 5 fully released boom shoots in 2023 that have thoroughly entertained the shit out of me during this utterly chaotic feeling year, and hopefully a few things on the list there that you maybe haven't heard of before. What about you guys? What would you regard as your own personal favorite top 5 throwback retro-style shooters of the year? Let the rest of us know down in the comments below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If so, feel free to lightly caress the like button. And if you've developed a sudden hunger to know my every opinion on forthcoming boom shoots and Doom mods and whatever in between, the subscribe button, not to mention the bell, is very much your friend. If you feel like really helping me out, enjoying this esteemed list of names now scrolling up screen, how about chucking me some coin via Patreon? From the eminently reasonable price of $1 a month, you too can join this list and gain exclusive access to perks such as early access to videos when available, custom VIP roles over on my lucrative, not at all ghost town of a Discord, and the smug sense of self-satisfaction that comes from knowing that you are supporting non-plagiarized original opinions. But enough with the depressingly necessary hard sell. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.